think it was great.
Went well, no?
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, we kept it a little under an hour.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's perfect.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we touched on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
It was fun.
It was fun, no?
I mean, it was like, just like you and I sitting here talking anyway, but we went back in time.
Yeah.
Through some of the things that I went through, and I would have liked to have talked about my buoy system. That's pretty cool. I actually got that from another guy named I'm drawing a blank, from Jacksonville, but my buoys are 4 feet of 2-inch PVC in the ground and 1 foot sticking up, and then I got a weight that goes inside of that, and then the buoys they stay at the proper height no matter what the water level. You don't never have to do anything. When it's surveyed at one time, it's going to be the same every time.
Right.
So it's pretty cool that, the surveyors, they come in and check it out. They go, wow, this thing's pretty darn accurate,
Right.
That buoy over there is a centimeter out, that kind of thing.
Yeah, of course.
And that makes me proud that I know everything is dead on here, Try to give the skiers the best drivers, the best boats, that kind of thing. But I think that's what makes the difference, having a place to go, get out of the sun, play some kids playing basketball, throwing darts. Not the kids, the grown-ups had a dart tournament, dude. And then, like Ski Freeze or Die, we're going to have the tug of war across the lake.
Yeah. No, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. All right, man, that was awesome.
All right, everyone, welcome back, or welcome to the Water Ski Podcast. Welcome to 2020. Best wishes for a lot of turns and a lot of ski sets for everyone. Before I introduce the next episode, I just wanted to share this opportunity. The last episode with CP essentially went very well, and we received, both myself and him, a ton of good feedback. So we thought, why not shouting out a little bit of gear, So basically the rules are, you go on iTunes or Apple Podcast and you leave a review, okay, for the podcast. I believe you can do it again if you've already done so, but essentially you leave a review, but the review has to contain the word pickle, P-I-C-K-L-E, okay? That's the rule. It can't just be the whole review being pickle, but it has to be a review of 1 or 2 sentences, and then you stick the word pickle in there. And we'll give you 2 weeks, and then next week we'll announce the winner, and the winner gets some flow grown apparel signed by Chris Parrish. So if you want to get some Chris Parrish signed apparel, get on iTunes, get on Apple Podcast, review the podcast, and make sure to send me an email with your nickname. Otherwise, I don't know how to get in touch with you. So the email is Matteo, Matteo, at thewaterskipodcast.com. So leave a review, chug in the word pickle, send me an email with your nickname. In 2 weeks, me and CP are going to raffle it up and send some apparel your way if you win. So yeah, with that said, this week's episode is with a dear friend of mine. His name is Keith Albritton. He's the owner of Lake 38 here in Tallahassee. And that has been my ski partner for the last 5 years since I moved here. Keith is a noble person, someone who I look up to immensely, honestly, primarily for his generosity. And I think this will transpire very clearly in this interview. Keith talks about all sorts, like how he got into skiing, all the way up to organizing one of the Pro Tour stops in the world right now. And the other thing, I think the 2 things you're going to take away from this is the generosity of him and Karen, and how they run their place. It's not even a ski school. It's their house, And secondly, you'll get the passion. You'll truly get the passion that this man has, and it's the passion we all share. It's the passion that brought you to make your friends try water skiing. It's the passion that got me to do this thing, the podcast. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this interview. We took it at the 7th Buoy, which is the building right on the shore of Lake 38. I believe we played some darts first, and then we recorded this, and then we went straight into turning some buoys. So a classic day at Lake 38. And you'll see, this is just a chat. So yeah, enjoy. And I hope wherever you are, I hope that you're skiing, or if you can't, well, hopefully this will keep you entertained enough. See you in 2 weeks. Well, Keith, thank you so much for having me here. Let's have a little interview. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it.
Welcome to the Water Ski Podcast, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate you letting me do it.
Of course. Of course. We're here. This is my second interview at the 7th Buoy, right?
That's
I
right.
interviewed Wade here a few weeks ago. We're at Lake 38, right?
Right.
And this is your home site. This is your house. This is where, plenty of people skied over the last handful of years.
Oh, yeah.
But before we get to how this all came about, including the 7th Buoy, I want to hear how you got into skiing.
Okay. All right. Well, many years ago, I'm 65 now. I was 22, never skied, didn't know anything about it. And we always had a family reunion at Manatee Springs on my mother's side every year. And we went down, and all my cousins, they had a boat down there, outboard and whole 9 yards. And they talked me into getting on. Of course, everybody was drinking, right? So they were hammered, right? And I'm out there like the typical first person skiing on a pair of Budweiser skis, of all things. And I was falling. I was all over the place, arms in, butt back, the whole 9 yards. I'd fall, and they were laying in the boat just rolling, laughing. And it pissed me off. I said, I'm going to get better at this shit, Anyway, and that's pretty much what happened. And then from then on, I got into slalom skiing a little bit. We didn't have but one ski. It was my brother-in-law's ski, old EP15
Okay.
And then we got into barefooting for a little while. We built our own boom, still with an outboard,
And this was still on where was this?
This
was
Lake Jackson.
Lake Jackson.
Lake Jackson in Tallahassee.
Which is like northern part of the city, right?
That's right. Yeah, right up US 27. And we fought the water level there all the time. But as time went on, we got a little bit better. And, we were like serious wally skiers. No buoys. We were just shredding,
Nice.
Yeah, and then US 27 didn't have any trees there then, so it was showing off to everybody that rode by. So whoever had the biggest spray, man, you were the man,
Right.
Anyway, that's kind of how it went down, and then a few years went by, and my sister-in-law said, "Hey, they're having a tournament at Lake Seminole. Let's go look at it." So we were the first ones in the gate, right?
And by now you hadn't skied the course yet?
Never.
Okay.
Not at all. And so they says, there's a park ranger, you pay your parking and everything. And he says, "Well, you want to get in it?" I says, "Well, we're not that good." "Oh, no, you're plenty good enough." So we get out there. And I've been behind an outboard all these years. And next thing you know, we got this old ski nautique about 85 nautique, 2001 with a big wake. I think I made 2 buoys.
Okay.
And then I did the barefooting thing. I came in second on barefooting because I was pretty good at that, tumble up and all that. And Gary Bates, I don't know if any of you guys know Gary Bates, but he's from Albany, Georgia. He was a really good skier in the day. And that's what started it.
Wow.
That's what started it.
So a little like experience in a tournament.
Yeah.
Like so the first time you tried the course was in a tournament.
In a tournament, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the view like? Because like you pulled out for the gates, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And you just
I'm sure
buoys coming at you.
I'm sure I kind of just squeaked through there, and pulled along to one kind of thing, And then the shore was lined up with people. They were cheering, and especially when we did the barefooting thing,
Right.
And all those guys up around Lake Seminole, they got into it and created Flint River Footers. Mm-hmm. And it was a big team and a club, if you will, that they barefooted a lot. So there was some impact there. And actually Lee Wright that skis with us, he was in that club with them. He barefoots.
Ah, nice.
Yeah. So, but it's amazing how in a place like that, real country setting, how much impact that was on those people. It brought more people into the sport. It was pretty cool, you know.
Well, it certainly had an impact on you, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as soon as I got on the slalom course, I was hooked. It's worse than golf.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, once you get one buoy, I can get two. You know, yeah, you know.
Right.
So it was really fun back in those days, and then later on we actually created a club and held a tournament up there. You know,
Lake Seminole.
Lake Seminole. I think it was '89 maybe. And it was really a good experience. I enjoyed it. You know.
So you had that tournament experience. You tried the course, obviously hooked. Probably can't think about or talk about anything else.
Oh no.
How did you go from there to actually ski the course a little bit? Like, was it at Lake Seminole or?
It was actually on Lake Jackson. So my brother-in-law that had the FX200, the EPFX200, we went down somewhere in Orlando. It was like a resort where they taught kids to ski and played tennis and whatever. I don't even know the name of it. And they had an old '83 ski nautique there. And I bought it for $10,000. And we were riding back. We were so proud. Nobody could tell us anything. Man, we got a ski nautique on the back. We were friggin' hooked. So we get back to Tallahassee. Can't wait. We run out. There was a slalom course on Lake Jackson.
Oh, there was one already.
Yeah, it was one where John McLeay skied there for a while on that course when he was at FSU. And so we immediately bebopped out there. Well, somebody cut it to pieces. Oh. So then we go back to US 27 where everybody could see you. And I'm out there skiing. And Joel had already skied, then I was skiing. And I looked up there and I whistled at Joel and said, hey, there's somebody up there motioned for us to come over there. And we pull up there, and I'd never seen this guy in my life. And his name was Wild Bill Walker. Bill Walker, we called him Wild Bill Walker. He said, I'll give you some gas if you give me a pull. And I'm thinking, well, I never have gotten that gas, by the way. But we get out there, and we said, how fast you want to go? He says, 36. And I'm looking at Joel and say, you know, this guy, there's no way, you know, 36. Right. I said, what line? He said, 28. I'm thinking, there's no way. So we get up and get going and everything, and all of a sudden he is back and forth, and I'm in my jaw drop. This guy's friggin' good.
Right.
He's like pro level in my mind. I'm Joel, look. And he look in the mirror. I'm sure he was weaving everywhere, just free skiing, but he was out there shredding. So that's what started it. And he actually coached me a little bit. And we had a course that we put in. Steve Maddox and I went out and put a course in a place we call the Cattle Gap, very protected.
Yeah.
And we had skied so much out there. Andy Mapple's been there. Jody Fisher's been there. And they're just like, you're skiing around lily pads, you know.
Right.
But a great site, but we always fought water level, you know, and there's one area that was real shallow you had to go through to get in, and of course the prop was dragging the bottom, and one year we went through 5 props.
What?
You know, but yeah, we skied there for years, and we fought the water levels over and over and over, and the weeds, and I mean, it was bad. Then Lake Jackson went dry in '99. So
completely dry.
Completely dry. You drive across it.
Wow.
So there's another lake that used to be joined to Lake Jackson years ago. There was a plantation that built a dam across there, and it still had water in it. And it was named Lake Carl, north end of town, up Meridian Road, and it was horrible, but it was a place to ski.
Right.
And we had to pull the buoys. We had to put all the buoys in. We'd leave the Sponge X buoys for the boat up all the time, and there'd be bites in it from alligators biting it, you know. And even the entrance gates, we put a Sponge X on the left, painted it orange, and then we'd put the soft buoy, the air buoy on the right, and then all 6, and then the last one on the end gate. And we'd have to do that every time. We'd have to put the buoys in, we'd have to pull them out. If you left them, there would be at least 3 of them popped the next day from gators.
Wow.
Yeah, so we left there one day, and the next day a lady came down that lived there in her golf cart. She said, you know, last night when you guys left, we sat on the back porch, drank a glass of wine, and we counted 74 gators in front of our house. So anytime they had a nuisance gator, you know, like on Lake Jackson, somewhere like that, they'd catch them, and that's where they'd release them. So it was gators everywhere. So, we all skied there.
Any incidents or no?
No. Kelly Breeden went by one time and it opened his mouth and scared her to death. She was screaming and hollering. She was a little thing back then. And and we got her in the boat, but she lived. And that's where we skied, and weeds everywhere. I mean, it's just, you can't imagine the weeds. You'd have to take the boat and reverse and forward to get the weeds off the prop. And
Wow.
I'd drag a boat there every day we skied.
Wow.
Every day. So
every day you would have to get the boat in, probably tractor it in almost if the water was low.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And then put up and down 8 buoys at least every time?
Every time, yep. Every time. And then I forgot where I was going with this, but I'd get off work early, like an hour early, and go there with a shovel and dig the dirt out just so we could get the boat in every day. It was horrible. And when we come in, there was this little ledge we had to go over, and we'd come in at ramming speed and then part the waters, and then the boat would float perfect. Anyway, we did that for years. I mean, and then finally Lake Jackson came back.
So it took a few years before Lake Jackson.
Oh, yeah. It was 10.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So by then it's 2009, 2010?
Let's see, it was 99. So, yes, it would have been I think it was, so it had been 2009 before, I think it was dry for 10 years.
Wow.
And
was it any better when you got back? You could actually just launch the boat and ski, or there was still a lot of work to do?
At home, I could launch the boat at the house, and I had the boat in the cradle, so we could just drive across the lake and ski. But it was even more lily pads then. And when Andy came and skied with us, naturally we had it all kind of cut out where we were skiing. Well, Andy, being the skier he was creating so much space, he was cutting new lily pads. I mean, and we were like, wow, look at this guy, man, run 39. And he was, he enjoyed it. I mean, we had him come over and coach everybody is what we did.
Nice.
So it was fun.
At the Cattle Gap.
At the Cattle Gap.
So how would you do it? Would he stay at your place and then you would just boat there? Or how far was the Cattle Gap for your house?
Probably 1.5 miles, 2 miles.
Okay.
And then I think he stayed at Jeff's house, which he lived on Lake Jackson as well. So.
Okay.
And then, anybody wanted to ski, we had to go to the landing and pick them up.
Yep.
It was a lot to it. And I had an old dock built there. It wasn't much, but it was something to put your gear on, But some of the things we did to ski, man, I mean, before that happened, when we were still before Lake Jackson went dry, I need to tell you, this is a great story. So the old 83 that I bought years ago that I told you about, it ran hot. And, of course, it warped the heads on it. And so Steve Max and I skied then. Of course, we put a new water pump impeller in it, and we were out there skiing. And then we go to crank it, and it would just lock up. You could hear the starter engage, but it'd lock up. And what it was water in the cylinders. And you'd have to hold it down until the water would go by the rings and crank.
Right.
And naturally, this water's going down an oil pan, right? So we ski, we go home, we drain the oil, pull the distributor, pull the intake, pull the heads off, scrape it down, put aviation Permatex on it, new set of gaskets, put it back together, new oil, and go ski the next day, just so we ski the next day, knowing it was on the same things. So every time we skied, we didn't have money to repair the engine.
Right.
And so for at least a month or so, Steve and I we'd go ski, come back, drain the oil, pull the heads off, every time we skied. That's how bad we wanted to ski.
Wow. Every day, I'm assuming, too.
Just about it. Well, I think we skied on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then the weekends, of course.
Yeah, okay. So at least 4 days a week, you were doing all of this just to get a few sets.
Just to get a few sets in,
That's unbelievable.
And our days back then were, obviously I was much younger, but it wasn't nothing for us to be there at daylight and leave the lake at dark. Nothing for me to ski 5 sets, and I'm talking 30-minute sets.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, and we'd just wait our turn and ski, and then we'd run over to this little restaurant there on the lake. We'd go there at lunch, go in and eat, go back and ski.
That's cool. So you were boating to go eat and then back at it.
Right, yeah. So I've been through some really rough places to ski,
Didn't you say you put like 8 courses on Lake Jackson?
Yes. That's, there's at least 8 there, still there.
Well, there was one when you showed up. I'm assuming the other ones you put in?
Yeah, well, we put one in there permanent, and that was a cable course, the one that got cut.
Yep.
So we put one there, and it lasted about a year or two, and the guy up there didn't like it, and he cut it. And finally, he got with Game and Fish, and they came to me and said, hey, you know, this guy up here doesn't want you down there. And rightfully so, because we were there at daylight till dark.
Yeah,
and this loud engines, they didn't have mufflers back then. It was loud. So, you know, that's when we found the cattle gap. We went,
yeah.
No houses around. We found this spot, protected on all sides but the north end. It was due north and south. The sun never an issue. It was a great site.
Wow.
Other than the water and the weeds, the water level and the weeds, you know. But
did you have tournaments there at the cattle gap?
No.
Never had a tournament.
Never had a tournament. It would just been too hard, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we could have, but we'd had to boat everybody in. We'd had to set up scaffolding in the water for the judges, and you know. But I thought about it.
Yeah, I'm sure you have.
You know, but yeah, then I'd use PVC pipes. We'd drive those in the ground, and with a sledgehammer, we'd take a metal pipe and weld it to the sledgehammer. We'd slide it inside the 2-inch pipe with holes already drilled in it. We'd drive it down as far as we could. Then we'd dive down and cut it off about a foot above the surface of the dirt, the bottom.
Yep.
And stick a piece of number 12 electrical wire in it in the appropriate loop, and then put the buoy in.
There you go.
You know, and had sub buoys with a little chain hanging on it, so you could just come up there and hook it in appropriate length. But it was fun. It's almost like it never happened now, you know.
What do you mean?
Being here and just walk out and then everything's in place and just get in the boat and go.
Right.
You know,
So how did this come about? Because obviously the experience of skiing you have now, it's way different than those, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like as you said, now you show up to the dock, you lower the lift, and you ski in a perfect man-made lake.
Right.
How did this come about? Because by now we're in late 2000s, you're back in Lake Jackson, but still a bit of work to get a ski set in.
Right. So for years, Karen and I, my wife, we went all over the place looking for property that we could actually buy and put a lake on it. It never worked out, you know. I mean, we even had a contract on one, you know, and that fell through. And we bought this property. It's 100 acres in Gaston County, north of Quincy, Florida, and northwest of Tallahassee. And we bought it in 2008, built a house on it just for a weekend thing. And one day, and there's a field up by the road, and I planted it for dove, you know, corn and millet and all. I never shot it, just feeding the animals more than anything.
Right.
And one day I'm on my little golf cart, and I got to looking at it, and I said, you know, I think that might be long enough, you know. And so immediately I get on Google Earth and use the little measuring tool, right? You know? And
classic skier.
Yeah, you know, it's long enough. So I told Karen, and I think we were actually going to Birmingham for our daughter's wedding. And I told her, I said, I think it's long enough. She's going, okay. She's thinking in her mind, you know, okay, Florida DEP, Army Corps of Engineers, he won't get a permit. And she said, well, I'll tell you what, if you get a permit, I'll find the money. So Monday morning, I had Northwest Florida Water Management District out here. We were standing right out there in the field. He said, well, let me get this straight now. You're not talking down in that hole down there. I said, no. He says, you're talking up here on this hill? And I said, yes. And he says, well, if you do it up on this hill, there's no permit required. And I'm going, wow, you know.
Because there was no water here.
No water, it was just a field. I
Right.
mean, the worst up and down field you could ever imagine. So I called him the next day, you know, what about Florida DEP? He says, no, they're in our office. You good with us, you good with them. How about Army Corps of Engineers? No, they're in our office. You good with us, you good with them. So I called a couple of guys, one big excavating company, and then that kind of fell through. They didn't seem like they wanted to mess with it. So I called a buddy of mine, and Mike Roberts, Roberts Sand Company. He has a bunch of big excavating stuff, mainly in the sand business.
Yeah.
And I said, remember me talking about you building me a lake one day, digging me a lake? He said, yeah, I remember, but I'm probably not interested, but tell me about it. So I told him. He says, about the no permit required. He says, you need to get that in writing. So he goes, let me give you a lady's name. Her name was Elva Peppers from Florida Environmental. So she came out, we rode, and basically there is a permit. In the U.S., if you disturb more than 1 acre, you have to have an MPDES permit, which I think that's the name of it. Basically, it's a glorified stormwater runoff prevention plan.
Okay.
So she wrote that up for me, and I think it was like $1,900 for her or something like that, and the permit went like $350. So I had to put like 4,200 feet of silt fence up, put a rain gauge, document if it rained a half an inch, I would have to walk all of that silt fence and clear it, document it and everything. So I did all of that, and I actually worked a deal with Jimmy Crowder Excavating, and they came out on January 12th of 2012 and started digging.
January 12th of 2012.
Yeah. And in July, we were skiing. We were putting water in it in like April.
Wow.
You know. And then I realized my well that I put in wasn't enough, so luckily we have a pond below the house that's spring fed, and I put a big 10-horse pump in, 6-inch pipe, and I basically, you know, in the hot days I pump every day for 3 hours, 50-something thousand gallons of water every day.
Yeah.
And it keeps it level, and now it's cooled off some, so I've had it off for a week, and it's only dropped like an inch. So that's kind of how it went down, man. It was, you know, and again, I still, even to this day, when I drive in, I almost have to pinch myself. It's kind of hard to believe.
Well, I mean, I think that's the experience that everyone has when they come here.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, because you get in from the gate and you see the lake already starting on the right, but like continuing on the left. And then as you get through the gate and you see just this perfect man-made lake for slalom with trees all around, you're like, okay, well, where am I? You know?
Exactly.
I mean, to me, I mean, I've been living here for 5 years, and I've had the honor to ski with you for 5 years, and still every day when I get through the gate, it still shocks me.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. It's I mean, again, it's kind of hard to believe it even happened, you know, but it's hard to believe that some of the things that I used to do to ski even happened. You know, it seems like we've had this forever now, but we haven't, you know.
Yeah.
Just since 2012, so lots happened since then, you know.
Quite a bit, yeah, and I think I love for you to touch on it. So you skied 2012. That was sort of like, but although the picture I've seen in 2012 of your first sets, I mean, the water was very low, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was barely skiable.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, well, I think there was 3 feet on the outside of the buoy before there was dirt.
Right.
And that was the first time Steve and I skied. And actually, Karen got up and rode to the end of the lake on the slalom.
Oh, Karen skied,
yeah. And she didn't ski the buoys, but she just rode behind the boat and sat down and rode back. And she hadn't skied in 15, 20 years.
But she wanted this
She wanted it, yeah. So it was Steve Maddox, Karen, and I skied the first time, and it was literally 3 or 4 feet of water outside the buoy before you had dirt.
So you didn't want to pull long.
No. Yeah. You didn't want to do a zigzag, let's put it that way, you know. But yeah, and then we got it full, and it was awesome. I mean, when we skied that first time that you were talking about, the boathouse wasn't even in the water.
Yeah, no, because I saw the pictures on your book, and it was
yeah.
just like, it looked like a little bit of a bowl, right?
Yeah. But now it's full, and it's been great, man. I mean.
And how do you, sorry, just to take a step back, but like, how did you go about, like, did you ask advice to someone that had already done a lake, or just you and your company, sort of like the company you recruited, sort of figured it out?
Well, I talked a little bit with Billy Buck in Birmingham. He gave me this book, all he had to do, but it was totally different than mine.
Okay.
You know, it was just totally different. So all he had to do pretty much was build this big dam at the end, and, you know, of course, build spillway and that sort of thing. Mine was different. It was just a field.
Yeah.
You know, up and down, left and right, nothing flat. And, you know, naturally I wanted a dog leg at the end, at the far end. This end, at the southwest end, I didn't think I had enough room because of the highway.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to put a reverse dog leg there. Now, after it's all done, if I had to change something, I would make it straight. I know now I had enough room. But then when you were just looking at a field, it was kind of hard to tell, you know.
Right.
And so, yeah, if I had to change something, I would probably straighten the lake out on the boathouse end, on the starting dock end. Still may do that one day.
I'm sure.
You know?
Knowing you probably, you might
know?
do it.
I've thought about it.
I'm sure.
Yeah. But
sure.
It's worked fine. And like I say, you go around the island, it's a little different on this end, but some of the best skiers around skied here, and they do just fine.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
You know, so.
It's a perfect lake, Keith.
Yeah,
you know?
I know. I love it, man.
And so 2013, first full season. Did you have any tournaments in 2013?
I don't think so. And I don't remember exactly when the first tournament, but I would say 14 maybe. We had a C tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Went real well. And I think we enjoyed it so much we sanctioned another one that year. I think we had 2 C tournaments then. And I don't even remember how the record started. I think you had a lot to do with that, if I remember correctly. You know.
Am I to blame?
No, in a good way.
Yeah.
In a good way, you know. I mean, it's easy for you to get on the phone. You knew all these guys. I mean, I knew some of them, but not personally like you did, you know. So, you called up, Freddie Winter and Dane Meckler and people like that, Will Asher, JT, all your HO teammates, and said, hey, we're going to have a record tournament. And the best I remember, that's kind of how it started. And it was a success,
Mm-hmm.
And even here, I want to touch on this. I'm a little different than a lot of people. I'm not rich, but I don't charge anybody to ski here other than bring some gas. Bring some gas, and we'll pull you and we'll have fun. No lease on the boat, no paying, no fees or anything. And I'm trying to grow the sport. I've got one little girl here now that's just turned 9. She's on 2 skis, and we got her going around buoys. She loves it, And so I'm just trying to grow the sport, and I can't play by myself.
Yeah.
So I'm semi-retired now. I get off work at noon, come up here, and actually work harder up here mowing and whatever. But then in the summer months, everybody starts showing up about 4, and we've got. I mean, we'll have 8-10 people here on any given day.
Yeah.
To ski, and I think that's cool because there's so many people, friends of mine, that I hear out there, man, you got it made. You got somebody to drive for you. I said, and I do. I've got it made, So, I'd encourage a lot of other people to think about that. Again, you can't play by yourself either.
Yeah.
And so why not invite some people over and teach them how to drive, and you coach them, drive them, they drive you. It's a win-win for everybody. They're going to get hooked in it. They're going to buy more products, more skis, and I just think that's a good way to look at it. Now, once I completely retire, that may change. I may not be able to afford it,
Right.
But for now, I'm good with it, So
yeah, I mean, I must say I was shocked because, as you know, like when I came here, like I was considering Florida State as for my PhD, and I already looked at other places, and obviously the first question was, well, of course, is the university program good? But second, is there skiing around, right?
Right.
And then when I heard about this place, they were just being done, really, for a year or so.
Yeah, right.
And I came to see it. Well, I mean, the shock of getting through the gate obviously never failed, even that first time. But then when you told me how it worked here, because I mean, as I drove through the little road, I'm like, okay, this is awesome, but how much is it going to cost me? I'm going to be still a college student for a few years. Like, how am I going to be able to afford skiing here?
Right.
And I was shocked when you told me, hey, you just bring gas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
It's crazy.
Exactly. So It was pretty cool. I remember we had the old '06
Yep.
Nautique and the 196. Yeah, 2006 196, and then we only skied it just a little bit, and I ended up with another boat. Yeah.
Yeah, the Masters Nautique.
Yeah, the Masters Nautiques.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's kind of how it went down, if I remember.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, but
and then like I think what you say all the time, that like you can't play by yourself, like you can see it in the way you manage this place. I mean, at the end of the day, this is your house.
Mm-hmm.
You moved here 2 years ago now, or last year?
excuse me. I think it was May 20th was 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's been a little over 2 years.
Yeah. Excuse me.
And you built this place where we're talking from right now, the seventh buoy. Talk about that. What is this place where we're at?
Well, it's Karen. She's all about it too. She enjoys having people, even though she doesn't really ski.
Yep.
And so she said we ought to build a place. We even thought about getting a house mover to move that house down the hill there up here.
Right.
And it was going to be some ungodly amount of money. And then we got to talking to, it might have been, well, I won't call names. We was talking with someone. They said, well, you don't really want all these people walking through your house during a tournament. And Karen says, that's a great idea. So we decided to build this structure here. It's like 40 by 40. It's got rooms underneath, put judges in or whatever. Or Wade when Wade comes through.
Yeah, Wade.
And so half of it's outdoor where we're at now. Fireplace, TV where you can watch football or whatever. Got a place to pass through food from the kitchen from the inside. Inside, dartboard, pool table, guitars, pianos.
Yeah.
And basketball, ping pong downstairs. And so when the kids, I call the kids, they're growing up now. You got Neely Ross and Sean Hunter and some of these kids, even Jamie and Landon and Kelly Breed and all those kids that came up. A lot of them skied here, a lot of them didn't. But when they come to a tournament, they had something to do.
Yeah.
And if you get hot, you could go inside and cool off. And it's not your normal tournament where you sit in the car and wait 3 hours for your round, and you've got something to do.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we try to feed everybody, and Karen's all about feeding. She's country. I mean, she, from the South, you feed people. If they're your guests, you feed them,
Yeah, exactly.
So, so we feed, dinner, lunch and dinner.
Yep.
Most of the time. And, and that's kind of the way we roll here. I mean, it's just, obviously on the tournament, you have to pay your entry fee so we can pay for gas and hotels for judges and that sort of thing. But other than that, that's it.
Yeah. No, you can tell doing tournaments here is a completely different experience, and it became clear to those people who came, even driving a fair distance, for your first few record tournaments, that's the commenting they had, all of them, oh, wow, you actually feel welcomed. You feel like there's other things to do in between your rounds. Because, ski tournaments can be a little lengthy, and repetitive, but no, certainly you guys do it the proper way. And then I know I had a bit of influence on this, but tell about how the Lake 38 Pro-Am came about, because 2020 is going to be your third year, right?
Yes. I don't remember how we started. You and I know it was you and I talking about it.
Because you came to the San Gervasio Pro-Am in 2015.
Right. That's right. And seemed to me like we had a record tournament here, and you invited a bunch of your friends. I think T-Gas was here, and he tapped me on the shoulder and said, what a great site, man. Have you ever thought about doing a Pro-Am?
Yeah.
And that kind of put it in my head. And I think what happened about a year later, you and I started talking about it seriously. And again, so for the elite points for WWF,
yep,
they had a new program. Normally it's a minimum of 21,000 payout, and 12 of that had to go to the men. Am I correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And so, but they had a new introductory offer where you could kind of walk your way into the thing. So the first year, I think we had to pay like 10,500 out, and I think we paid 11.6. Okay, and then last year we were up around 17.
Yeah.
And now this year we got to go to 21. But one of the things we did last year, Karen and I just felt like the women should make what the men make.
Yep.
So we paid the women the same amount. And I thought that was pretty cool, and they enjoyed it. There was, more money for the women. We had a good turnout. I mean, we had, I think, just about as many. I think we had 15 pro women and 15 or 16 pro men.
That's a solid number.
Yeah.
Good field.
And then, so this year, we're not going to do the 21, 12 for the men, and the remainder for the women. We're going to go 12 and 12. So we're going to pay 24. And obviously I, used the entry fees to help that, offset it. But, and then Karen and I pay the difference. I mean, it's hard to get sponsors. You got all the ski companies and the boat companies and all that. They're tapped out, and if someone was to offer, obviously that would be great,
Yep.
Actually, Mastercraft last year helped pay for the food.
That's true.
Yeah, I forgot. They did. Mastercraft came up and helped out. So, I want to keep doing it. I don't know how long I can afford it, but I want to keep doing it. And so this year I went back and changed things a little bit to where it's more like your tournament. So the amateurs are on Friday, 2 rounds on Friday. And then all day Saturday will be pro only for prelims.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sunday morning, the amateurs will finish up. And then probably around noonish, the afternoon will be the finals for the pros. So I think it's going to be good. I think we'll have a big crowd.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's going to be really good,
Yeah, and I think, obviously the water skiing community appreciate all the efforts that you guys are doing, that you've been doing to put together this event. Mm-hmm. But as you say, it needs to come to a point where, the event needs to sustain itself.
Right.
Because obviously you want to keep doing this for a while, I'm assuming.
Absolutely.
So, I think in our real ways, like we're influencing the sport in a better way. Because
Mm-hmm.
look at it, for instance, last year, there was, Masters and California Pro-Am and Malibu.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then you.
Right.
Right? The Lake 38 Pro-Am.
Yeah.
And this year, I believe also, Swiss Pro.
Swiss Pro, yes.
Yeah, Swiss Pro.
Mm-hmm.
But then next year, there's going to be another pro tournament in the U.S. at Jay Bennett's,
Oh, yeah.
So
that's correct.
and then in Europe, now we have like 6 or 7.
Right, yeah.
So things are moving along.
Yeah, I think so, and I forgot about Jay's. That's a great site too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to go there
I got to go there,
right?
yeah.
Or last year.
Yeah, last year. I drove over there, and it was a great site and great people. It was the first time I ever got to meet Jay. I listened to your podcast with Jay. I thought it was awesome.
Oh, thank you.
What a great guy, Great family, great site. But yeah, so going back to that, now there's a few more pro events, and I'm picking the weekend after the Masters, and I do that on purpose for the reason that there's a lot of Europeans that would normally finish up the Masters and go home. Well, they can wait 6 more days, and 3 hours away, they're here at Lake 38.
Yeah, because we're only but 3 hours from Callaway, right?
Yeah, 3 hours from Callaway. Well, the way you and I drive.
Yeah, well, maybe 3 and a quarter. Yeah, 3 and a quarter, 3.5. Yeah.
But yeah, and so.
Sorry, just before I forget, there was also the Travis Grand Prix last in DC.
That's right. Yeah, the Travis Grand Prix, and so which is also a very fun tournament to go to. Skeet shooting, go kart.
Yeah, right.
On teams, you got a pro on your team. So, you guys listen to this, you ought to think about going to that one. That's a fun one, and it's handicapped, so it doesn't matter. You might have Will Asher on your team, or Matteo, or Dane, or whoever. And you might can ski 15 off
and beat us.
And exactly,
because it's according to your score, right?
That's right. Yeah. So it's handicapped. So it's really fun. It's really fun. Laid back.
Props to John for doing it for sure. And I believe next year is going to be actually in the fall.
Oh, really?
So he moved
Okay.
it to the fall next year.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Sweet. So any news for next year's Lake 38 Pro-Am? You say you're gonna change. You're gonna accept more amateurs. Any other changes you have in mind or that you can share?
No, I don't think so. I mean, again, the boating part of it has gotten where it's kind of tough, but we're open. I mean, we're not tied to one company. I mean, if Mastercraft, we've got a Mastercraft here, we got a Malibu here, and we've got a Nautique here. We'll probably have a draw, whatever, and make it work. We try to get the best we can. We try to get it where people get to ski behind the boat they want, but it's kind of hard to do in a Pro-Am. So there it's pretty much about winning the money.
Yep.
Winning the title and the money and getting you a yellow bib to take home. So.
And you had some insane finals. I mean, both Lake 38 Pro-Ams, at least on the men's side, have been chosen by runoffs, right?
Right.
Because you do a straight final.
Straight final.
Right.
Yeah.
And if it's tie, runoff.
Right. And so last year, help me with this, that we had Will Asher, Stephen Nauvoo, who was...
So no, last year was JT versus Will, 4F41, and then he ran off again.
That's right.
And JT won.
And JT, that was the first year. JT won
last
the
year.
first year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then last year.
This year.
Yeah, this year.
Yeah, this year. Yeah.
This last tournament. Yeah, this year. The 2019, we had 4, right? Had to go off the docks at 39.
Yeah, I think it was like Will, Freddie, and Steven, right?
Yeah, and there was somebody else seemed like, but anyway, maybe it was 3. But they had to go off the dock at 39 and just ripped it. Every one of them ran 39 cold off the dock. Pressure. And I think after Freddie actually ended up winning, and I remember his interview with Mark Austin at the end, he says he didn't think he's ever been to a place where they had a final where all 3 or 4, I think it was 3, I can't remember.
I think it was them 3, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, where it was cold off the dock and just bang, 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 everybody knocks out 39, and then it was about what you're going to get at 41, and a piece of 4 won it.
Yeah, classic Freddie Winter, like throwing the body
Still
at 4.
sliding on his back with ski and airs with the hands still holding onto the handle, sliding. He wanted to make sure they knew he got around to, did he let go before the buoy? No, he held on. And
3 1/4.
3
That's what
1/4, man. He did it.
Yeah,
it was really good.
Sweet.
And it's also an honor to drive those guys.
Oh yeah, talk about your driving a little bit. Obviously, you're a senior driver.
Yeah,
You've been driving at a couple of pro events by now.
Yeah, I've driven at Bennett's. I've driven at your place. I used to drive a lot at Corey, still do, at Corey Pico's in Santa Rosa Beach. And it all started through a good friend of mine that a lot of you guys know, Jody Seal. So I'm over there, and one day he gave me the opportunity to drive the Open, and I capitalized on it. I didn't just, I gave it my all. When I got out of the boat, I was drained from just concentration, trying to do good, and that started there. And, I was fortunate enough to pull Adam Picos through his first 39.
Yep.
See, Dane Meckler's first 39.
Yep.
And he's wearing it out right now, by the way. As we all know, he's doing very good. He'll be here this weekend at Ski Freeze or Die, or next weekend.
Ski Freeze or Die.
Yeah, Ski Freeze or Die C tournament, and we've got 4 or 5 pros in a C tournament. But we do have a chili cook-off, so that brings a lot. So, but anyway, the driving part, that's kind of how it went down, and I've driven in a lot of the Florida tournaments and stuff, and am I the best? No, I do the best I can. I try to be down the middle, and and that's kind of it. And I've went up and I've gotten a senior judge now. And a safety. So I'm trying to get some of these younger kids to, as soon as they can, to go ahead and start being a judge or a driver, work on their driving, or just, and some of these, when I'm saying kids that we're talking about are level 9, so they can fast track. So any of you guys out there listening to this that are level 9, work on your judging. Or you don't like judging and you want to drive, start working on your driving. Get
scoring,
scoring,
TC.
Just, and that's what helps grow the sport. You get a tournament and you want to have a tournament, you can't find anybody to work. We've been fortunate. Most people want to come here.
Yeah.
We can put the scorer in the air conditioner if we want to, but most of them like sitting out here,
right?
So they can see what all's going on. But anyway, I mean, that's kind of how it went with me.
But you've always cared about your driving, because I mean, I'm assuming that when Jody gave you that opportunity to drive open, you already cared about your driving and you wanted to make sure that you were a good driver.
Right.
And then you're given the opportunity to drive open men.
Yeah, and I'm going, wow.
Right.
And that goes back probably 10 years ago. I mean, I remember driving, it was a Mastercraft Pro Stop, but it was mainly geared around tricks because of the Corey's, and he's a big trick lake. But there was a division, and I think the only two we had was JT. Let me think, JT and I forgot, but I pulled them, and they both ran 39 there. And which, you say, oh, they ran 39. Well, they knocked 39 down all the time. But back then, 10 years ago, it was a little bit different, And
we had just switched to 0 off, so
yes.
people were adapting. Running 39 wasn't a joke. Yeah,
it was a big deal, and I wish I could remember the other person, but anyway, that's. And then I've got some help along the way from some really good drivers. Chad Scott being one of them. I mean, and when he and I are around, we're constantly studying our boat path.
Yeah.
And he's helping me. I mean, he's still coaching me. I mean, you could do this a little bit better. And so I listen to that and I try to apply it. And it's just like when you go to a ski school and the coach asks you to try to do something, you need to at least try it.
Right.
Try not to keep doing the same thing you're doing. So, he's a better driver than me. So when he talks, I listen.
Right.
So, but yeah, that's. But no, there's a lot of concentration goes on behind the wheel.
For sure. If you care, yes.
Yes,
if you care about giving a good pool
right.
and a fair pool.
Right.
Because obviously, maybe some of the people that listen to this are not aware, but driving is skillful, takes a lot of practice, and it's not the same according to the skier you have behind the boat, right? If it's left foot forward, right foot forward, if they pull harder or not as hard, like if you pull long, like you have to adapt quickly.
Yeah.
And keep the boat straight down the middle.
Yeah,
right?
and there's going to be times when you mess up, but you just got to limit it, try to keep it as low as possible. Like Lyman Hardy, I'm in the boat judging, he's driving, we're at Corey's. Is that left foot forward or right foot forward skier? He wanted to know that every time, which is good advice.
Yeah.
Little things like before you take off, look back and make sure it's on 32 off or 13 or 35, 12, whatever. Little things you learn about being in the boat. You don't want to get to the other end. Oh man, I forgot to shorten the rope. Even though that isn't your job, it's the judge's job, but you're a team in that boat.
Yeah.
And so you learn little things like that. And, obviously some people want you to pull them up harder than others. And you try to remember that. And you get to the point where you actually remember their letter,
Yeah, of course.
Like Nate Smith's A2,
But do you think practice is important? Like,
oh yeah,
getting the opportunity to drive high-level skiers,
Yeah, and it's tough as a driver, but like Chad Hunter, Sean's dad, he skis here with us, and he's become a senior driver now. We've worked really hard. There's many times during the summer we'll turn the in-course video on, and look at ourselves and. Get a higher end skier like you or Dane or somebody like that. Sean, Freddie, we go back and look at that and look and see what we could do better,
Yeah.
And it's a lot to it. I mean, and then if you're a new driver and you've gotten your senior, it's not like, oh, I'm gonna go to a pro stop and drive. That don't happen. You got to slowly earn your way in there. So that's where I'm coming from with the Jody Seal. Jody Seal gave me that opportunity, and any of you drivers out there that ever get an opportunity like that, take advantage of it. That's how you get into doing that. And of course, here I've got a little bit of advantage. I'm the guy paying the money. So I get to drive either the women or the men, or both during prelims. But, like last year I drove the men, and the year before I drove the women, So.
And I think, like the other, I guess, fortune in a sense that you have is that, like, on any given day for the last 3 or 4 years, you had, there was a year where you would pull me, Sean, and Dane through like 39 every day. At least maybe a couple sets a day. So you had to drive at least 6 39s with someone pulling, their butt behind the boat, trying to run it. Right. So I think that experience, like of driving, high-end skiers always, which might not be available to everyone.
It's not. It's not. But that's an advantage for me. So I need to take advantage of that and do the best I can out here in practice, just as if it was a cash prize tournament, But yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate for that. I've got, again, you just said it, you and Dane Meckler, and Dane's in Charlotte now, but he was here for, a good while. Yeah. And then Sean Hunter, he's at Alabama at school now, but, he was here the other day. And then you'll come in here. Freddie Winter's going to stop by, Chris Parrish is going to come by, and Chris, I don't think skied here. He came here. He was hurt when he was here. He was here with Mike Morgan one day, and he sat in the boat and kind of coached us and that sort of thing. But there's no telling who may come up here, thanks to you, by the way. But
well deserved.
Yeah, I mean, but it's been awesome. I mean, so to have a lake like this, never dreamed I'd have anything like this, and to have that caliber of skiers coming by here, man, it's like, wow,
Yeah.
It's pretty good stuff. So
yeah. And what do you see, where do you see the lake going in the next 5 years? Like, what is your vision? Because obviously, it's a bit of a peculiar situation. It's not a ski school,
right,
but it's your house, but you have people coming to ski. You're organizing a pro tournament and other tournaments, like we're doing Ski Freeze or Die next week. Any plans for the future? Like, how do you see Lake 38 in 5 years?
I would like for it to at least be like it is now, but maybe better. I'm a guy that kind of shoots from the hip. A thought comes to my mind, dude, let's do it.
Yeah, I would say it's an accurate description of who you are. Yes.
So, I got little things I'm thinking about, like at the Garcias at Hancock, they got their judges' towers air conditioned, and I'm thinking that's probably one of my things. Actually, have a place for the judges in the tower to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Rather than walk down in the woods or whatever,
Right.
little things that mean a lot,
Yeah.
Thanks to people like, Roger, Logan, and Jerry Jackson helping me with all the camera work. I want to get a little bit better with that. What we've got now is great, but I really like the Wi-Fi feed from the boat. Things like I'm going to get there. But
so rather than using transmitters, like actually get Wi-Fi.
Yeah, and so Jerry's already doing that, and I think Roger Logan's doing it some as well. But I'm going to upgrade my stuff and my equipment, for cameras and stuff like that. We've already gotten some really good radios now, and just little things. But who knows? I mean, I might figure out a way to heat the lake, so we can have a winter tournament, So, and but I know everybody thinks we're in Florida, but we're in North Florida. We're literally 3 miles from the Georgia line, so it gets cold here.
Yeah.
And but I don't know anything other than that, But again, something may pop in my mind and say, tell Karen, she said, well, let's do it. You know, it's
Right.
kind of like the 7th buoy here. The 7th buoy came from kind of like the 19th hole in golf where you can go sit down and have a drink or whatever. That's where the 7th buoy came from.
Yeah.
So along those lines, but we have a lot of get-togethers up here, and you know, we've had Thanksgiving here several times.
Yep.
You know, so,
That's true.
But no, I don't know any other thing. But you know, again, if it pops in my mind and I feel like it'd be a benefit to the skiing community, I'll do it. You know.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about what you're doing here. Obviously, it's your home and you're doing it, you know, for yourself and your friends. But that, like, what's gonna help the ski community so clear behind a lot of the decisions you make about, you know, what tournaments to do and when to do them and the format. You know, I think it's very commendable, and that's why I really wanted to do this, because I think you're an example for our community.
Oh, well, thank you.
You know, so
Yeah.
well, any final thoughts? Anything we didn't say that you want the people to know?
I'm sure afterwards I'll think of something, but you know, let's ski, dude.
Yeah, well, yeah. Let's turn the mics off and let's go ski.
Let's
man.
go ski. Let's go rip it. You know, I think we got 4 or 5 people coming that should show up any moment anyway. So
Yeah, so we better get the boat in the
Yeah,
water
better
and get
the boat in
ready.
the water, man. I tightened up the pylon today, by the way.
Oh, nice, awesome.
Thinking about you.
What are you saying? That I pull hard?
Yeah, dude.
All right. Well, Keith, thanks a lot for doing this. Thank you for sitting down with me, and thank you for what you're doing for water skiing
Well,
in
thank
general.
you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.